Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is Societal Narcissism. No contribution with this video. This one's going to probably be a little controversial for some of y'all, but I got questions. I was a fan of that 70s show. I liked Hyde on the show, Danny Masterson. It's in the news. Danny Masterson sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. That 70s show star was found guilty in May of raping two women more than 2 decades ago. When this story started coming out and it broke, my first question is, how do you charge somebody after 20 years? Well, they did it to Cosby. Well, apparently out in California, there's no more statute of limitations on rape. So let's just read this here. That 70s show star Danny Masterson was sentenced Thursday to 30 years in life for prison for raping two women more than 2 decades ago at his Hollywood Hills home. Masterson, 47, showed no visible emotion after Los Angeles County Superior Judge Charlene Olliemathews threw the book at him. Mr. Masterson, I know you're sitting here steadfast in your claims of innocence and thus no doubt feeling victimized by a justice system that has failed you, Olliemathews said just before she dispatched Masterson to prison. But Mr. Masterson, you're not the victim here. Well, wait a minute. If you're telling him he's not the victim here, then why would you think he feels victimized if he didn't do it? If he actually did it, why would he feel victimized? That the justice system failed you. How is the justice system going to save him if he's actually a rapist? See, you got a judge with an agenda. And if you followed this case, you know it was nothing more than he said, she said from 20 years ago. And my biggest red flag of this, okay, and this was called out during the Kavanaugh hearing, during the Kavanaugh hearings for the Supreme Court, okay, when they were accusing him of being a gang rapist. And Lindsey Graham, who I can't stand, had the best point. He goes, who operates a gang rape? Or who's a rapist? And they just stopped raping 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago. So we're to believe here. And I don't know if he did it. I'm not in the courtroom. But after 20 years, he raped 2 women, or I think there was 3 victims here. They said 3 victims. Between 2001 and 2003, that's 20 years. So he just went on this short little rape spree and then never did it again. They couldn't find any more victims in the past 2 decades to somehow back this up. And I know Leah Remini's running her mouth because she's an ex-Scientologist, and I am anti-Scientology. I am not down with Scientology. Apparently Masterson is. He is a Scientologist. Okay, I don't trust her agenda either, because these people all have an agenda. After 20 years, and it gets down to a he said, she said, and the judge kind of just tipped the hand. Why would he feel victimized by a justice system that failed him if he actually did it? It makes you wonder, what is this really about? Because look, they got Cosby, he went to prison, even though it was past the statute of limitations. They twisted the law to do it, and then he got out. But understand something. Cosby didn't go to prison because he raped anybody, because he was drugging women. Everybody knew he was doing that shit since the 80s. It wasn't until he spoke out and got off the Democratic plantation and told black people to start being more responsible, pull up your pants, don't blast your music, don't put gold in your mouth, pull up your pants. That's why Bill Cosby went to prison. He should have went to prison in the 80s for doing it, but the statute of limitations ran out in Pennsylvania and wasn't a damn thing they could do about it. And then the DAs did some corrupt shit, and he got out on appeal. Now, apparently there's no statute of limitations out in California. Celebrities don't go to prison. for rape. They don't. And we know they do it. We know they do it. They're not held accountable. They're not held accountable until they step off the plantation. Until there's a bigger movement than them that wants to crush them like they did with Weinstein. And what Weinstein was doing wasn't even rape. Oh, Lord. So even if he did do it, he's not going to prison because he raped anybody. He's going to prison because he pissed off the powers that be. But in this case, I mean, you ask me my personal opinion, I think this is bullshit. Because Harvey Weinstein was still doing what he was doing right up until they busted him. You didn't hear shit about Danny Masterson, okay, for 20 years. These women came out of the woodwork like 17 years after the fact, and it's 20 years now. Okay, he just stopped. He just gave up. He was just out drugging and raping women, and then just decided to give it all up. Come on, does that make sense to anybody? And this was highly publicized. Where are the other victims? Where are the other victims? He just gave up? Makes no sense to me. Masterson's wife, Bijou Phillips, a model and actor who was a constant presence at her husband's trials, quickly donned a pair of sunglasses after Olmedo announced the sentence. She left the courtroom without a word. Masterson was hit with the staggering sentence 4 months after he was convicted on two of the three counts of rape he faced in his trial in Los Angeles. So he must have been found not guilty on one of them, for one of them. That one of them must have been so ridiculous that they couldn't convict him. He had been charged with raping 3 women identified as Jane Doe 1, 2, and 3 from 2001 to 2003. And then he just gave up his life for rape? I mean, let's just think about this logically. You just give it up? Maybe. But that's not why he's going to prison. I promise you that. Hollywood rapists don't go to prison. Celebrities don't go to prison. That shit gets buried. It gets buried until they step off the plantation, until they piss somebody off. Masterson, a once popular sitcom star, did not take the stand at either of his trials. He has, through his lawyers, repeatedly denied sexually assaulting the women. Neither did Masterson make any statement at his sentencing. Instead, he sat silently as the 2 women he was convicted of raping, as well as a former girlfriend whose rape accusation the jury deadlocked over in May, took turns urging the judge to hit him with a harsh punishment. So one was his former girlfriend. No agenda there. No possible agenda there. And the jury deadlocked on that one. When you raped me, you stole from me, Jane Doe number 2 told the court. That's what rape is, a theft of the spirit. You're pathetic, disturbed, and completely violent, she said. The world is better off without you. Jane Doe 1 said Masterson has not shown an ounce of remorse for the pain he caused. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't believe these women. I don't believe them. I mean, I believe Cosby's did it. I mean, I believe Weinstein was having girls jerk him off and watching them jerk off for movie roles, but I don't really care about that because who's forcing you to be a Hollywood starlet and make millions of dollars on that? So I knew he belonged behind bars for the safety of all the women he came into contact with. She said, I am so sorry. I'm so upset. I wish I reported him sooner. Well, where are all these other women? Where are all these other women other than a pissed off ex-girlfriend and 2 other women that you don't know who they are or what the relationship was because their identities are completely concealed, which is unfair to him, which is completely unfair. And you wonder why guys, okay, especially the younger generation, is walking away from dating, is not having sex with women, is not wanting to have anything to do with these women. You think this helps? You think stories like this helps? Oh, the feminists and the powers that be, they'll laugh and they'll celebrate and ha ha ha. And then they'll go home and make a TikTok video about where are all the good men at? Why did no man want to date me? Why did no man want to talk to me? Oh, gee, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want you to get a fucking hair up your ass years later and then come back and accuse me of something. Maybe that has something to do with it. Jane Doe number 3 said Masterson's actions sentenced her to viewing my body as a crime scene my entire life. In a post-sentencing statement, Los Angeles County Attorney George Gaston, who's letting Los Angeles burn to the ground, by the way, being looted and robbed and murders and carjackings. Okay, this is what he faces. No political agenda here. A George Soros controlled DA. I mean, this should tell you everything. You shouldn't believe anything that's coming out of his mouth. I doubly don't fucking believe it. Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gaston said he applauded the women for coming forward and participating in this process. This guy Masterson pissed the wrong people off. My hope is this sentence will somehow bring them peace and their bravery will be an example to others, Gaston said. One of my top priorities is to ensure that Los Angeles will no longer be a hunting ground for Hollywood elite who feel entitled to prey on women. Unless they donate to your campaign, right, George? Unless they donate to the right politicians, right, George? I mean, how many black men did Ed Buck drug, rape, and murder before he was finally held accountable? How many California politicians was Ed Buck funding? Schiff, Adam Schiff, Swalwell, fucking what's the other one's name? Lou? The Asian guy I can't stand. Ted Lieu. All of them got pictures with this creep. Oh, it's no longer a hunting ground to prey on women? Right. Unless you're supporting the right politician, I guess. Sean Hawley, one of Masterson's lawyers, said in a statement, the legal battle's not over. And though we have great respect for the jury in this case and our system of justice overall, sometimes they get it wrong, Hawley said. And that's what happens here. You know what? You got to stop letting these juries off the hook. You got to stop letting these juries with political agendas off the hook like they do in D.C. and like, oh, the jury did this and the jury was like the jury. Fuck the jury. Fuck the jury. The jury's usually comprised of the 12 dumbest people they can find. Mr. Masterson did not commit the crimes for which he's been convicted, and we and the appellate lawyers, the best and the brightest in the country, are confident that these convictions will be overturned. Masterson's first trial ended in November with a mistrial, with jurors leaning towards acquittal. So whenever you see that, whenever there's a mistrial where it's mostly all leading to acquittal, boy, when they take another run at it, boy, do they fuck with the evidence at that point. They leave stuff out. The judge starts excluding shit. And I don't know, because I didn't follow the case that closely. But again, who stops raping? Okay, who rapes 3 women and then just gives it up for 20 years? His second trial ended with him being convicted of raping Jane Doe 1 and 2, but not Jane Doe 3, because the jurors could not reach a decision. All 3 accusers are former members of the Church of Scientology, to which Masterson belongs. And again, I'm not a Scientology guy. I'm not a Scientology guy. But maybe they got a bone to pick with the church. Seems weird. Both trials focused unwanted attention on the controversial church, which the women have been accused of trying to cover up the allegations. At the retrial, Olmedo stressed that Scientology was not a defendant, because you don't want to really mess with Scientology. You know how they are. But she allowed witnesses to testify that church officials pressured them not to talk to police about the rape allegations. Scientology spokesman Karen Powell repeatedly denied those allegations and insisted that the church doctrine requires members to abide by all laws of the land. After Masterson's sentencing, the church released a statement that did not mention Masterson by name. It said the prosecution's introduction of religion into this trial was unprecedented violation of the First Amendment. It probably was. And probably on that alone, it'll be overturned. I'd be surprised if this case isn't overturned. I'd be surprised once now the case is over, because you always find out afterwards how much fucked up shit went down, how corrupt it is, and they can't hide it forever. The church was not party to this case, and religion did not belong in this proceeding, as Supreme Court precedent has maintained for centuries, it said. A previous version of this article misstated the outcome of Masterson's retrial in May. He was not acquitted of the third count of rape. The jury was deadlocked on that count. So, I wasn't there, you weren't there, we weren't there. But I'm asking, does this make sense to you? Does any of this make sense? Does this sound like this is an actual rapist? Or does it sound like you got a couple women and an ex-girlfriend with a bone to pick with him and possibly the church? Because after 20 years, he just stopped. He just did it. He just did it from 2001 to 2003 over the course of 2 years, and then just never did it again. And you got no other victims, nobody else coming forward, nothing. And he's been happily married for I don't know how long to his wife. Doesn't make sense to me. And regardless if he actually is a rapist, does he belong in prison? Sure, absolutely he does. But even if he is a rapist, that's not why. It's not why he's been prosecuted. He's being prosecuted for another reason. He obviously didn't support the right person. He spoke out against the wrong person. He didn't support the right politician. Whatever it is, whatever the agenda is, it isn't about this. It never is. Not with this prosecutor, as LA literally crumbles. This is what you have time to spend 2 trials on. And you still couldn't get all the convictions you wanted. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments section below, everybody. Thank you for watching. And if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, something you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up a Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, you'd like to sponsor a video like this to someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it supported, growing, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you guys, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with either the Cash App, Zelle, PayPal, and email links in the description box below. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. Also, be sure to subscribe to both my Rumble channels. Follow me on Twitter and Telegram as well. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been Societal Narcissism. Take care, everyone.